Alright, hello, citizens of the Nigerverse. It is Niger once again. So, September 28th, aka a couple days ago, was the 20th anniversary of Crash Twinsanity. And I feel I definitely need to talk about it. I've mentioned in many times on the channel before, almost ad nauseum, that while I am, always have been, and likely always will be, a big fan of Spyro the Dragon, I'm also a fan of Crash Bandicoot as well. And admittedly, I don't think I ever really mentioned why. But I'm here to finally lay it bare. The reason I am also a fan of Crash Bandicoot is because of this game. So, this being the 20th anniversary of this game, and like I said, it technically was a couple days ago. At least at time it's recording. By the time this goes up, it'll actually be October 1st, so it'll be even longer ago, technically. Um, but nevertheless, this game is the reason I'm such a big fan of Crash Bandicoot. So, he's ready for story time with Nigel Dixie. So back when I was younger, I don't remember how old I was. Maybe about 8 or 9 or so. At the time, my brother was living with us. Normally is it was my parents and my younger sister, and me, of course. But for a time, my older brother lived with us. My brother Tony, you've probably seen him on the channel a few times. But one day, I noticed he was playing a certain game. He had his own PS2. He normally lived with my grandmother, her slash his grandmother, her, and he had a PS2 of his own. We had our own PS2. We had the PS2 Slim, but he had his own PS2. He had the big fat wide one, but I remember one day I saw him playing in a certain game that looked very colorful, very vibrant, and so I wanted to play as well. So being the me being the annoying little brother, asked my older brother if I could play, and he let me. And the game, of course, if the title of this video and the purpose of this video didn't give it away, was of course Crash Twinsanity. And so, eventually, for Christmas that year, my grandmother, not the same grandmother, a different grandmother, for Christmas, it's got me. Well, first of all, she got me SmackDown vs. Raw 2009, and so this is around Christmas of '08. But she also, and actually, this was a few days after Christmas, but we didn't end up going to her house until a little while after Christmas. But nevertheless, the other game she got me. She actually got me a triple set, so it was actually 3 Crash games in one. So I got Crash Twinsanity, Crash Nitro Kart, and Crash Tag Team Racing, all for the PS2. So I finally had my own copy of Crash Twinsanity, and because we had our own PlayStation, I was able to essentially play it on my own time. But I enjoyed the crap out of this game. And this game was a lot of fun as a kid. Like, me and my sister definitely played it when we were kids. And it's what really got me into Crash Bandicoot. And the reason I still feel so fascinated, not just by the game but by the story of the game, is because a lot of twists and turns when it comes to the story of Crash Twinsanity. It's a game that went through, quite a bit, and it was a game that technically wasn't even finished, if you can believe it. But I had hated the game. I had beaten the game, and everything, and I played it quite a bit. I played it a lot, like to the point where I pretty much have it down packed, like the back of my hand, and I still very much enjoy, even so many years later, because it is such even though it is unfinished, even though it is even though it is a game that technically had a lot of stuff cut from it, and to the point where there's even a section within the game for all the cut content and everything. It is still a very fun game. It's a game with a lot of fun, a lot of comedy, and a lot of really fun gameplay. It's not necessarily game of the year or caliber, or unfortunately it's not going to win a whole lot of game of the year awards, but it is a very, very fun game. And I didn't realize this until I played other Crash games much later in life. That this game definitely went against the grain when it comes to other Crash games, because other Crash games are more linear and more of a hallway type design, when it comes to platforming for or Crash Bandicoot. But this game was a lot more open world. There was a lot to explore, or to the point where even the crystals, you get the crystal slash gems by completing certain challenges, whether it be time challenges or getting all the boxes in a level. Well, this game didn't have that because it was exploration. You found the gems essentially within the level. Well, it still had the different colored gems. It had the silver gems, the purple gems, the blue gems, the red gems, the green gems, and the yellow gems. And each of the gems unlocked different different content within the pause menu. I do forget which gem did which. Some were videos, some were concept art, some were cut content, some were all kinds of stuff. And there was even a trailer there for Spyro: A Hero's Tale, which was coming out later on, which was also under the umbrella of Vivendi Studios. And I did have Spyro: A Hero's Tale growing up as well, but this game, and this pretty much is gonna be several minutes of me gushing about this game, because this game was a whole lot of fun growing up, and it's a game I very much enjoyed, and a lot of the reason for that being the aforementioned gameplay. There was the gameplay, there was the environment, and whether it be Insanity Island, and with all its vibrant colors and beach-like design, which really gets explored, and I think that's one of the major benefits of this being a more open world style game, is that you really get to see the Insanity Island for all that it has to offer. You get to really fully explore, or just the vibrance of Insanity Island, and even for a PS2 game, even for a game that came out in 2004, the game still looks absolutely beautiful. Just from a visual standpoint, a lot of the beautiful lush colors and everything, and it reminded me why I love Spyro so much, because Spyro is also a very colorful game, and the colors were very much evident here in Crash Twinsanity, and the soundtrack from the band Spyro is an a cappella soundtrack, so no instruments at all, is all people's mouths. Now, a cappella is something that you're either into or you're not. Not everybody is a fan of a cappella sound. A lot of people do prefer their good old-fashioned instruments, but I feel like the a cappella sounds, first of all, made some very catchy soundtracks, but also added to the very comedic nature of the game. And the game is very much comedic. There's a lot of comedy throughout. To give kind of a brief plot summary, Crash and Dr. Cortex are forced to, for the first time, team up. Yes, you heard me correctly. Crash Bandicoot and Dr. Cortex, sworn enemy, who have been fighting each other almost up to this time, to the point where Cortex and the mighty Uka Uka, as well as several other elemental masks from the Wrath of Cortex, even designed another Bandicoot in the form of Crunch to take care of Crash. As now these two have to team up to deal with an evil bigger than and even Cortex himself. That being, of course, the evil twins, and a pair of twin-paired birds, that being Victor and Moritz, which turned out were Cortex's old old pets from his days at Madame Amberly's Academy of Evil. Well, and so, they have to team up. They recruit Cortex's daughter Nina, which Nina Cortex. This is where she made her debut in the Crash series. And there's four different worlds to explore, or that four different main hub worlds, and then the levels are within. And with this being open world, well, you kind of, it's not like the other Crash games where you select a level. This one you get funneled towards the levels and you find them naturally, akin to Jak and Daxter, which ironically is another kind of Naughty Dog property, even though Crash was no longer part of Naughty Dog at this point in time. But at the four areas you're able to explore are Insanity Island, and as I mentioned, the home of Crash and Coco, and we'll get to her. Then there's Dr. Cortex's Iceberg Lab, pretty much your designated snow level. Oh joy! Then there's the Academy of Evil, aka Dr. Cortex's old stomping ground, and then finally there's the 10th dimension, and aka Twinsanity Island. And yeah, we're doing interdimensional travel. Rick and Morty fans, eat your heart out. But there's Twinsanity Island, which is pretty much an evil version of Insanity Island, but it's also where the evil twins reside. How nice that Dr. Cortex accidentally sent them to the one dimension that looks similar to the one and they're already in. And so Crash, Cortex, and Nina have to collect the power crystals and ultimately stop the evil twin. And so kind of a brief, like I said, plot summary there, and but apparently he well, actually we'll get to it, but going back to the comedy of this game, there's a lot of comedic charm when it comes to this game. Just a lot of funny moments that even as an adult I still cackle like an idiot at, including Cortex giving you the tutorial by abducting Coco and stealing her clothes and her wig, and dressing up as her. And the reason I say her wig is because as apparently either Coco wears a wig, so Cortex was just able to take it off and then wear it on his own hair, or B, Crash Twinsanity is a lot darker than I remember it being. But there's just so much comedic charm and wit, so many funny moments, so many references to other things within Crash lore, and a lot of self-deprecating jokes, including about Wrath of Cortex, even including this game, and we'll definitely get to that. Just all kinds of stuff that makes it a fun time. But now that that's out of the way, let's get into actually, going back to the history of the other of the rest of Crash, there are familiar foes you'll fight, foes such as Dingodile and of course Dr. Cortex. At the beginning, you will battle him as well. Engine, and you will battle Engine as well. Also, kind of showing a lot, and of course Dr. Entropy and Dr. Embryo. They actually get like a dual boss fight this time around. But kind of delving into a lot of the Crash lore here, and really be able to tie everything together as well, including seeing even more Crash Rogue Gallery that don't have dedicated boss appearances, but who make appearances such as Tiny Tiger and Ripperoo and Pinstripe Potero. I'm still salty. Pinstripe got to keep his gun, but the soldiers in Twilight Harbor and the Spyro Reignited trilogy didn't get to keep theirs. They had to be replaced with paint guns. But there's also several other bosses as well, including a Tiki Totem on Insanity Island, and of course the evil twins themselves. And you even fight Madame Amberly, and for the most part, enemies are still one hit. But there's also the ants, which are alien-like creatures that come from the 10th dimension, and more specifically the ants with the swords. They're not like little tiny like insect ants like we're used to in the human world, but they are are the ant soldiers, and the one with swords kind of do break series tradition, and they require 2 hits to be taken out. Nevertheless, let's get into the development, because the development is really where things get interesting, but also depressing. And also, as I'm reading, the game officially went gold on September 7th of 2004. So, aka the game officially went gold. I mean, it sold enough copies on to go gold on my 4th birthday. On my 4th birthday. Hey, but it looks like that's looks like that was in Europe, as it didn't release in North America until September 28th. Thus, why I'm making this video. But the development of the game. Originally, he has a reading here, and I'll read the excerpt here. Crash Twinsanity was developed by Traveler's Tales Oxford Division and published by Vivendi Universal Games. The game was originally titled Crash Bandicoot Evolution and featured a premise involving the evil twin stealing Crash's island from Earth and grafting it onto a giant planet made from pieces of others. The tone of the game was intended to be more serious than preceding entries in the series, with the term edgy being widely used among the development team. In response to the release of Insomniac Games' Ratchet & Clank, which featured an identical premise, Traveler's Tales abandoned Crash Bandicoot Evolution and restarted production with a focus on making the next Crash title as comedic as possible. The new game went through several working subtitles, including Unlimited, Fully Fluxed, and Twinsane. Eventually, VU, aka Vivendi Universal Games, gave Traveler Tales 1 hour to choose the final title before the default selection of Unlimited. Concept artist Keith Webb came up with the title Crash Twinsanity with only 5 minutes to spare, and the game was announced as Crash Bandicoot Unlimited on March 26, 2004, with Crash Twinsanity originally intended as the game's American title. So it would have had a different title in Europe, but it did ultimately become Crash Twinsanity in the States. But it's kind of interesting how the game would have had a much different look, like a lot more of a serious Crash game. And look, I can appreciate maybe the shift in vision, like that is how some game franchises are. But of all the characters that I can see getting away with having more of a serious tone, the Bandicoot that wears shorts that hurts that fights all other colorful, wacky characters definitely isn't one of them. They tried it with Spyro the Dragon. Admittedly, Spyro, you had a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to that, but sadly that didn't really pan out that well either. But it does make you wonder what would have happened if they went with that vision, with Crash being, super serious and taking the planets and combining them together, which has that excerpt I read does say yes, that did happen in Ratchet and Clank. That almost literally was like the premise of Ratchet and Clank, except there wasn't any interdimensional travel in Ratchet and Clank, at least not in the first game. But it's also worth mentioning that game came out 2 years earlier, or that game released in 2002. So, it took you 2 years to realize that? I imagine probably the idea was there much earlier than that. And of course, I'm more so just clowning, but between the two, I am glad they went more with a comedic route. Not just for my own amusement, but I think because, for example, they also tried the same something similar with Bomberman, and that didn't pan out either. Or sometimes you can do a serious game, sometimes you just gotta let it be goofy. And in Crash's case, definitely letting it be goofy, I think, was the best decision. But even the game itself, as I mentioned and multiple times, unfortunately had quite a bit of cut content, because this game was unfortunately rushed. The game did suffer from rushed development, unfortunately. To the point where a lot of things were left on the cutting room floor, or different boss fights, different levels. Well, it's even an entire level and an entire playable character, that being the character I alluded to earlier, Coco. And they kind of have the concept, or at least the beginning of what would have been the Coco level you can unlock as one of the gems when you collect them in the game. And showing Coco and the cut level, which is Gone a Bit Coco, which they even have like the soundtrack for it and everything. It's on YouTube. It's actually not about soundtrack, but Coco being playable, it would be a nice callback, of course, because as Coco was a playable character, or at least in the original Crash 3, and when it by the time we got to the Crash Insane trilogy, she became a playable character in the first two Crash games as well, and would go on to be a playable character in Crash 4, as well as being a playable feature character in other Crash games as well, like the spin-off games Crash Team Racing and the Crash Party games, but it does suck how much was cut from the game. It does make you wonder. This game is still a lot of fun, even in its unfinished state. But unfortunately, because it is unfinished, there are quite a few glitches, and things do feel half baked at times. But it is still a lot of fun. But as fun as the game is, even when it's unfinished, could you imagine how much better the game could have been, and if the game was finished, if they were able to include everything. They even allude to it in the game itself. As the characters are traveling to the 10th dimension, Dr. Corsac says, we would have explored other dimensions, but we ran out of time. Pretty much, so they pretty much knew that they weren't going to have enough time to finish, so they even snuck it in the game itself. But for years, and I'm kind of one of those people had been asking for this game to be completed. What would happen if they finally buckled down, decided to take this game, this unfinished game, and decided to finally finish everything, add all the content back in, add the cut level and everything, add the Gone a Bit Coco level, we'll add everything back in and re-release the game as finished. And so far, at least the day and time is recording, that being September 30th of 2024, we're at about 10:09 p.m. And that hasn't happened yet. Would it happen in the future? Would I like to see it happen in the future? I think it'd be nice if it did. Do I think it'd be necessary? I don't think so. But it'd be nice if it did hit. More so, just to see how much better the game could be if they officially had time to finish it. And you can bring Spiral Math back in, which apparently the band broke up right after the game was released. And apparently they may have gotten back together as a band, but as fun as this game is, and this game is definitely a lot of fun. Unfortunately, you can't really. You can find it through natural means if you still have your PlayStation and everything. And otherwise, there is always emulation, of course. But it does make you wonder what could have been, and perhaps one of the biggest what ifs in gaming. It's really not the biggest what if, but I kind of like to think so. Well, it is a very relatively big what if in video game history. What if Crash Twinsanity was finished? What if they were able to include everything? What if they had more time? What if they didn't have to cut everything? And what could have been? What if they went with the original decision? I think all these ideas could potentially be explored, except for or you could do the original vision, but like I said, I think them going the comedic route, I think, was the best way to go when it comes to that. But it does make you wonder what could have been. But nevertheless, as I do celebrate the 20th anniversary of Crash Twinsanity, the first game that got me in the Crash series, and it's crazy how different it is from other Crash games, but it's still a lot of fun. Even though it's unfinished, even though a lot got left on the cutting room floor, it still always has and always will hold a special place in my heart. But nevertheless, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you can see as soon as it drops. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this discussion video. And if you've played Crash Twinsanity and your thoughts on it, would you like to see a finished version of the game come out? I think it'd be nice, but I don't think it'd be ultimately. I don't think Like I don't think it'd be the end of the world if it didn't come out, but it would be very nice, I think. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.